All right, so you're serious about turning those Python skills into an actual career, right? Well, if that's the case, we've got to talk about one of the most critical pillars of your coding foundation, functions. Let's dive right in.
And look, that's not just me saying it. It's the reality of the industry. Functions are the absolute building blocks of pretty much everything you're going to do as a professional, whether that's web development or data science. This isn't just some abstract theory. This is your ticket to getting hired.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the big why. Why functions are so darn essential. Then we'll dissect one piece by piece. After that, we'll unleash the power of parameters, get into what makes a function professional, touch on some advanced tools, and then wrap it all up with a job-ready checklist you can use right away. Okay, first things first, before we even think about writing a line of code, let's get crystal clear on why functions are such a big deal. Understanding this is the bedrock for everything else we're going to cover. So what is a function at its core? It's really all about being smart and organized. Think of it like a recipe. You write out the instructions for a cake just one time. Then whenever you want a cake, you just call that recipe. You don't have to rewrite the whole thing from scratch every single time. It keeps your code tidy and, most importantly, not repetitive. And this is why it's a job-ready skill. I mean, just look at this list. You literally cannot work with popular backend frameworks like Django or Flask, or build APIs, or even write simple automation scripts without a rock-solid understanding of functions. They are the engine that drives modern scalable software. Okay, so we've got the why down. Now for the fun part, the how. We're going to put a function under the microscope and look at its blueprint. Once you see this simple structure, it's all going to click into place, I promise. Every single function you write is going to follow this exact same pattern. It's like a formula. You start with def to signal to Python, hey, I'm defining a function. You give it a clear, descriptive name, then you list its ingredients or parameters inside the parentheses. And most critically, you tell it what to return, the finished dish, the final result of its work. Okay, pay close attention here, because this slide highlights a classic beginner trap. Using print is kind of like shouting an answer into an empty room. Yeah, it shows up on the screen, but nobody can actually do anything with it. Return, on the other hand, is like quietly handing that answer to another part of your program. That way, the result can be saved in a variable, used in another calculation, or whatever you need. And I really want you to burn this into your brain. If you want to write code that's modular, that's reusable, that's testable, all the things that define professional level code, you have to build your functions to return values, not just print them. All right, let's build on that. A function that does the exact same thing every single time is useful, sure. But a function that can change its behavior based on the inputs you give it, that's where the real power is. And that's the magic of parameters. Okay, let's quickly clear up some lingo you're gonna hear constantly. It sounds a little confusing at first, but it's super simple. When you're writing the function's recipe, those placeholder names like x and y, those are the parameters. Later, when you actually use the function, the real values you plug in, like 5 and 3, those are the arguments. Getting this right just helps you sound like you know what you're talking about. Now, this table, this is basically a goldmine for your next technical interview. Positional and keyword arguments are your everyday tools. But seriously, pay extra close attention to args and kwargs. These two are what let you build incredibly flexible functions that can take any number of inputs. You will almost certainly be asked about them. Okay, we've got the basic mechanics down. But now we're going to get into the stuff that really separates the beginners from the pros. These are kind of like the unwritten rules of the road, the things that employers are actually looking for. So what is it? What's the secret sauce? It's not just about getting the code to work. It's about writing code that's clean, that's readable, that's resistant to bugs, and that someone else on your team can actually understand and maintain. First up, let's talk about something called scope. Think of it this way. A variable you create inside a function, a local variable, is like a little secret that only that function knows about. The outside world can't see it or mess with it. Understanding this boundary is absolutely essential for avoiding all sorts of weird, unexpected bugs. And that brings us to one of the most important habits you can build right now. Relying on global variables makes your program a tangled mess. It's unpredictable and a nightmare to debug. Good functions are self-contained. They get data through parameters and they send data out with return. That's it. All right, now for two things that honestly are just not optional in a professional job. First, docstrings. This is just a simple comment explaining what your function does, who it's for, and what it returns. It helps your teammates, and let's be real, it helps you 6 months from now. Then you have type hints. This is where you specify what kind of data your function expects. It makes your code so much clearer and helps catch bugs before they even happen.
Here's another one you'll hear in interviews. A pure function is like a perfect little math machine. You give it a 2 and a 3, it always gives you back a 5. It doesn't change anything else in the world. An impure function, though, might have side effects, like changing a list that was passed into it. Knowing the difference is a huge step toward writing predictable, reliable code.
Okay, our foundation is solid. Now I want to give you a quick sneak peek at some of the superpowers you can unlock with functions. You don't have to be an expert on these today, but you definitely need to know they exist. So first, you've got lambda functions. Think of them as tiny, disposable, one-line functions. They're perfect for quick, simple operations. Then there's recursion, a really cool mind-bending idea where a function calls itself to solve a bigger problem. And finally, decorators. You will see these everywhere in web frameworks like Flask and Django. They're an amazing way to add new functionality to an existing function without changing its code.
Whew, we have covered a ton of ground, so let's bring it all home. Let's wrap this all up into a simple, actionable checklist you can use every single time you sit down to write a function, just to make sure it's up to pro standards. This right here, this is your cheat sheet for success. Is the name of your function clear? Does it do one thing and do it well? Did you document it? Are you using return? If you can go through this list and check off these boxes every time, you're not just writing code that works, you're writing code that will get you a job.
So, there you have it. You now have the blueprint for one of the most powerful and essential tools in the entire Python language. But look, all the theory in the world doesn't mean anything until you apply it. The real learning starts now. So the only question left is, what are you going to build first?